Hello and welcome to what might be our most controversial episode of Megawatts on Your Mind. This is LIGHTHIEF. Today we're going to talk about something nobody in the renewable energy industry wants to discuss openly: politics, control, and whether our democratic European governments actually want citizens to be energy independent. On one hand, we hear endless rhetoric about the Green Deal, energy transformation, distributed generation, prosumers. The European Union tells us they want solar panels on every roof, batteries in every basement, electric vehicles in every garage. The future is distributed, democratic energy. Power to the people, literally. But when you look at actual regulations, taxes, grid fees, permitting processes, and particularly how poorly energy storage is subsidized compared to generation, you start wondering, is this incompetence? Or is there a method to this madness? Because here's the fundamental question. Does the state, any state, really want its citizens to be able to live completely off-grid? To be energy independent? To not need the national grid at all? Let me be clear. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm an EPC contractor who operates in 11 European countries. I see the regulations, I pay the fees, I fight the bureaucracy daily, and patterns emerge. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Energy prices are one of the most powerful tools governments have to influence society. When energy prices rise, people get angry. When they fall, people are happy. When there's a blackout, governments fall. Energy is political power, quite literally. Think about it. In Germany, the Energiewende has cost over 500 billion euros so far. German households pay some of the highest electricity prices in Europe, around 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Why? Because someone needs to pay for grid expansion, renewable subsidies, and keeping backup gas plants ready. But here's what's interesting. If you want to install batteries in Germany to store your solar power and go off-grid, good luck. The regulations are Byzantine. The fees are punitive. The grid operator still charges you for being connected even if you use zero energy from them. In Poland, where I'm from, it's even more obvious. The state-owned energy companies, PGE, Enea, Toron, Energa, they control generation, distribution, and retail. When prosumer installations started threatening their business model, what happened? They changed the net metering rules. Twice, always making it worse for prosumers. Spain had the infamous sun tax, Impuesto al Sol. From 2013 to 2018, if you had solar panels and batteries, you literally had to pay a tax for the energy you produced and consumed yourself. Think about that. Taxing the sun. It was eventually repealed. But the message was clear. You can have solar panels, but don't you dare think about being independent. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Energy storage. Solar panels are heavily subsidized across Europe. In Netherlands, you could get up to 30% back. In Italy, the super bonus was 110%. They literally paid you to install solar. Germany, France, Austria, all have generous solar subsidies. But batteries? Different story entirely. In most European countries, battery storage subsidies are either non-existent or pathetic. Germany offers some regional programs, maybe 200 to 500 euros per kilowatt hour of storage. Italy has some tax deductions, but they're complex and limited. Poland? Forget about it. Why this discrepancy? Here's my theory, based on 15 years in this industry. Solar panels without batteries aren't threatening to the grid. In fact, they're helpful. During sunny days, they reduce load. But at night, you still need the grid. You're still dependent. You still pay grid fees, taxes, capacity charges. But solar panels with batteries, that's different. Suddenly you could disconnect. Suddenly you don't need them. Suddenly their entire business model, built on selling you electrons and charging you for infrastructure, collapses. Look at the numbers. A typical European household uses about 10 kilowatt-hours per day. With a 5-kilowatt solar system and a 15-kilowatt-hour battery, you could be 90% energy independent. Add a small backup generator for winter, and you're off-grid. Cost? About 15,000 euros for the solar, 8,000 for the battery, maybe 2,000 for a generator. So 25,000 euros for energy independence. That's what, 5 to 7 years of electricity bills for most households. The technology exists, the economics work, but the regulations don't. Let me walk you through how different European countries manage this balance between promoting renewables and maintaining control. France is a bit of the nuclear exception and is fascinating. They have 56 nuclear reactors providing 70% of their electricity. EDF, state-owned, controls it all. When solar started growing, what did they do? They created complicated feed-in tariffs that change every quarter. They limit self-consumption installations. If you want batteries, you need studies, permissions, inspections. The process takes months and costs thousands. Why? Because nuclear plants can't turn on and off quickly. If everyone had solar and batteries, who would buy nuclear power at night? The entire French energy strategy would collapse. Italy? The bureaucratic maze. Italy is where I really learned about bureaucratic energy control. They had the most generous solar subsidies in Europe, Conto Energia, then Superbonus 110%. Installations exploded. But then they realized something. Southern Italy was producing so much solar that the grid couldn't handle it. Curtailment became common. So what did they do? Did they encourage batteries to store that excess energy? No. They made batteries almost impossible to install legally. You need permissions from the grid operator. Months? The fire department? More months. The municipality? Even more months. By the time you get all approvals, the regulations have changed. Meanwhile, Enel, the former state monopoly, is rolling out their own battery systems. Interesting coincidence. Netherlands, the salami tactics. The Dutch are clever about it. They started with extremely generous net metering, 100% soldering. Your meter runs backwards. Beautiful for prosumers. But every year they reduce it a bit. 2023, still 100%. 2025, 64%. 2027, projected 0%. They call it phasing out. But what they're really doing is slowly forcing prosumers back to dependence. And batteries? Almost no subsidies. Some municipalities have small programs, but nothing national. Why subsidize something that would make net metering irrelevant? Cyprus. The island problem. Cyprus is particularly interesting because, as an island, they should be desperate for distributed generation and storage. Their grid is isolated, vulnerable. But what's the reality? The Electricity Authority of Cyprus, EAC, has a monopoly. They make it incredibly difficult to install anything over 10 kilowatts. Batteries? Forget it. The technical requirements are so stringent that only commercial projects can afford compliance. I've personally dealt with EAC, a 1 megawatt solar farm with a 500 kilowatt-hour battery system. The permitting took 2 years. 2 years! The technical studies alone cost 50,000 euros. Now, defenders of the status quo will say, but the grid needs stability, technical requirements, safety. And you know what? They're partially right. The grid was designed for one-way power flow, from big power plants to consumers. Adding millions of prosumers with batteries does create technical challenges. Voltage regulation, frequency control, phase balancing, these are real issues. But here's the thing. These are solvable problems. Australia has shown it. South Australia gets over 60% of its energy from renewables, has massive battery installations, and the grid works fine. Better than fine, it's more stable than before. California, despite all its problems, manages massive amounts of distributed solar and batteries. On some days, solar provides over 50% of total demand. The grid hasn't collapsed. The technology exists. Smart inverters, grid-forming batteries, virtual power plants. We know how to do this. The question is, do we want to? Or rather, do the people who control energy policy want to? Let's follow the money. Because ultimately, that's what this is about. This model has worked for a century. Utilities are considered safe investments. Pension funds love them. Governments love them because they're easy to tax and control. Now imagine everyone has solar and batteries. No energy sales during the day. No energy sales at night. Grid infrastructure still needs maintenance, but fewer users paying for it. Stranded assets worth billions. Utility death spiral. Who loses? Utility companies? Obviously. Governments, less tax revenue. Traditional energy workers, coal miners, power plant operators. Banks with loans to utilities. Who wins? Citizens, energy independence, lower long-term costs. Solar installers and battery manufacturers. The environment, obviously. New energy companies. The losers are powerful, organized, and have lobbying budgets. The winners are dispersed and disorganized. Guess who writes the regulations? Let me be technical for a moment because this matters. Europe's transmission grid is actually quite good. The interconnections between countries are strong and getting stronger. The high-voltage network is modern and capable. The problem is the distribution grid, the medium and low-voltage networks that actually deliver power to your house. These networks were built assuming one-way flow. The transformers, protection systems, cables, all designed for top-down distribution. Adding massive distributed generation creates real problems. Voltage rise? When everyone's solar peaks at noon, local voltage can exceed limits. Phase imbalance. Single-phase solar can create imbalances in three-phase networks. Protection coordination. Fault detection becomes complex with bidirectional flow. Power quality. Harmonics from inverters can cause issues. But, and this is crucial, these are all solvable with existing technology. Smart transformers with tap-changing capability. Grid-forming inverters instead of grid-following. Dynamic reactive power control. Battery systems providing grid services. The cost? Maybe 100 billion euros to upgrade Europe's distribution grids. Sounds like a lot? We spent 500 billion on COVID recovery. It's a matter of priorities. Here's what 15 years in this industry has taught me. Going off-grid is completely feasible for most European households. Today, with current technology. Those PV and BESS systems could provide 95% energy independence. The generator might run 20 to 30 days per year during winter. Annual fuel cost, maybe 200 euros. Compare that to grid electricity, 2,500 euros per year average. ROI, 13 years. After that, virtually free electricity for another 15 to 20 years. But try to install this system legally in Europe. In most countries, you'll face permits that cost thousands and take months, requirements to stay grid-connected and pay fixed fees, technical requirements that add unnecessary cost, inspections and certifications that delay everything, insurance complications, property tax implications. They make it just difficult enough that most people give up. So where does this leave us? The technology for energy independence exists and is economically viable. The barriers are entirely regulatory and political. The question isn't, can we have energy independence, but will we be allowed to have it? I think change is coming, but slowly. The utilities and governments will fight to maintain control as long as possible. They'll offer compromises, virtual power plants where your battery is controlled by them, peer-to-peer trading but through their platform, time-of-use tariffs that look like independence but aren't. But ultimately, technology wins. Solar costs keep falling. Batteries keep improving. Eventually, the economics become so compelling that even regulatory barriers won't stop it. My prediction? Within 10 years, we'll see the first European country fully embrace energy independence. Probably not Germany or France, too much incumbent infrastructure. Maybe Portugal or Estonia, smaller, more agile, less to lose. The rest will follow. They'll have to. Because once citizens see it's possible, they'll demand it. Until then, install as much as you legally can. Learn the technology. Understand your rights. And keep pushing. This is LIGHTHIEF from Megawatts on Your Mind. We don't just build renewable energy projects, we believe in energy democracy, even if the powers that be don't. Next episode, we'll talk about something less controversial, why most solar farms underperform, and how to fix it. Until then, remember, energy independence isn't just about technology, it's about freedom.